It's all right. We're now live on Facebook, which everybody can be. We're here for my dad, Colby's 90th birthday. 90 years ago, 1933, we got this great guy into the world, and he's accumulated experiences and wisdom that we can all benefit from. And the other stuff, we just won't talk about that. But Dad, let's start with when you were young. You were the elder now. When you were young, you had an elder.
Yes.
That you had the advantage of. Can you tell me who that was?
Yeah, well, I never thought I'd reach 90, and I outlived all my relatives that I know by several years, except for one, and that was my great-grandmother, Delia. And she was a Scottish lady. She was Delia Ferguson, her maiden name. And she was 93 when she passed away, and I remember when that happened. And she lived with my great uncle, and when they blow a horn whenever they need something to happen. And so I remember I was hunting with my dad, and I was on his shoulders. They were just hunting pheasants in the swamp, and the horn blew. And my dad said, "Grandma's in trouble, so go tell." And then we went up to the house, and she had died. And he said, "Go tell your mother," across, because she lived on the farm right across the street. And so that was. So then Dorothy said, and this is her idea. She said, "Think about it. Here you are 90. Delia lived to be 93, and then you cover the history of about 179 years between the two of you." And so she was born in the late 1840s, and she was a Civil War bride. My great-grandfather, Isaac, was a Union soldier and fought with Sherman during the Civil War and they used to sing the song, "Sherman's dashy Yankee boys will never reach the coast, said the saucy rebel, and it was the handsome bulls while we go marching through Georgia." And if you saw Gone with the Wind and Burning of Atlanta, that's where they started. They went all the way to Savannah, and they burned a 50-mile swath right through the state of Georgia and divided the Confederacy. So she lived to see that. And when she was, it's interesting because when she was young, and it was just about that time, she had 3 brothers in the Civil War, and she used to ride a horseback 20 miles from Alto, Michigan to Lowell, Michigan, and without a saddle and everything. And she was always worried because she worried about seeing Indians and black bears because they spooked the horse, and she'd afraid she'd fall off on them. But she liked the natives, and she used to feed them when they were hunting muskrats in the swamp nearby, and trapping muskrats. And so she was interesting, and she was also a good botanist, and she kept a scrapbook, and she was the local veterinarian and the local doctor because we didn't have those in those days. And so she knew all the herbs and all the medicine. Anybody was sick with an animal, or they'd come and talk to her. And so, that's Delia. So then I was just thinking, she lived through the Civil War, and then she lived through the Battle of Bighorn with Custer's Last Stand, and it wounded me when I massacred the natives. A horrible battle. And then World War I. So she's had quite a history. And so then I guess I pick up from World War II and bring it up to history up to date. But that's quite a lot of history, for just 2 people who knew each other to cover. It's amazing. So that's Delia. I think one of the reasons I made it till 70 is because of the modern medicine. It's amazing. First of all, I know people having colonoscopies, get those damn polyps out of your bowels before they become carcinogenic. And that was a real curse for my mother's side of the family. And on my father's side of the family, it was heart attack. And now I've had stents, and I also had a aortic bypass replacement. So that's helped me a lot. And then also I like scotch, and I think that's been very important.
Number one.
Yeah.
Cures everything.
Yeah. So scotch every night before I go to bed. That really helps. I sleep well.
So I'm guessing Delia was not doing any aortic bypass surgeries on the farm.
No, she wasn't. No, she had this scrapbook, and she'd read the New York Times or something Grand Rapids Free Press, and she cut out all these things that people would advise people how to stay healthy and what to do for this and that. And they had all the whipping cough and all of that. And she lived with my great uncle George. And Uncle George was a sharpshooter in the Spanish-American War, and he fought in the Philippines. And so we had lots of stories to tell about that under Admiral Dewey. And he taught me how to shoot a rifle. And so he'd get a box of 22 shorts out, roofing nails, and tack them into the side of the barn. Then we stand back and try to drive those nails into the wood. So he taught me how to do that, and that was interesting. And there's another story about that because I could shoot. When we went through basic training at ROTC at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, there was 135 of us from Michigan State University. And so we had to go out and try to qualify for marksmanship with an M1 rifle. Well, we went out in the first weekend, and only 15 of the 135 qualified, 15 of us. And our major was so damn pissed off. And he was mad, and he said, damn it, if you can't shoot an M1 rifle, learn to shoot an M1 pencil. And he says, they're all going to stay in over the weekend because we used to like to go down to Nashville and have fun and drink and stuff like that. And so we had to stay behind, and all of us who were marksmen had to work in the pit. I remember down there, turn around and look behind me. There's a big black widow spider right behind me in a web. And I thought, well, I'm going to lean back there. And so we would sit down below, and then we'd have the targets up above. And so the people started shooting. And I thought, the Army says the honor system. They can have the honor. We're going to have the system. So we had to put these round patches about like the black patches where we saw a bullet would hit. And of course, everybody qualified. In fact, they were so good. We had experts, and we had sharpshooters, and the only lowest people, the lowest grade was marksman, and that's what we all got. Who were actually the best shot, sitting down in the pit. And when they gave the medals out, they got all these medals, and people had these sharpshooter medals, these expert medals. And we sat there with that damn marksman medals. But I thought I learned a lot there. That was a good lesson about the military, and so that was kind of interesting.
So that was a little about your youth and your link to the past. Let's just jump ahead a little bit to the beginning of your adulthood. And a lot of your adulthood was meeting Mom and getting married. So what do you remember about the first time you met Mom?
Well, it was a double date. And my friend wanted to date her friend. And he didn't want to, and they didn't want to be alone. So her friend invited Dorothy, and my friend invited me, and we had a double date. And that was kind of mediocre, wasn't it? we had to go out, and then Dorothy was working.
She's not a poet.
So then we went and had another date, and I guess you were doing something for the Barn Theater or something in Kellogg Field, or working there, and I got you there, and then we had a couple more dates, and then I went in the Army. But Dorothy could write wonderful letters, beautiful letters. She's a good writer, and so I broke up with my old girlfriend and married Dorothy. So.
And when did you know that she was the one?
When she said yes.
I'm hearing things that I haven't heard before. I might have changed my questions if I know. Just tell us about the night you proposed. There's an interesting situation there. When did you propose to Mom?
Oh, we went to the drive-in. Dorothy knows that better than I do. Drive-in theater, watching two movies, A Man Called Peter, and what was the other one? I don't know.
Love is a Mini Splinter.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, and so I gave her an engagement ring that evening. So during the movie. between the movie or something.
Double feature.
She was,
Yeah.
she was more impressed
Double
than she
feature.
is now. So, you know,
No, it was at drive-in theater.
Drive-in theater, yes.
And the movie was
Big old Buick.
A Man Called Peter. And what was the other
Love
one?
is one of the things.
love is a mini splendid thing. I wasn't there, I've just heard the story a lot.
She told it. It's her story. Yeah.
So I want to move on to a different topic. We're jumping ahead a few years. You're in Michigan. You've been through school. You've got a family. You've got a successful career. You've got support. You decide to move to Thunder Bay. Why was that?
That's because I got this opportunity to have 5 research lakes that I could manipulate and do long-term research. And and then also I got the chance to organize international symposia and bring people in from Europe and Eastern Europe during the Cold War. And yeah, that was quite an experience. And we brought people, and the first thing, the internal security, the RCMP, knocked on my door and said, why are you bringing all these people in from Eastern Europe and from Russia? And I said, they're scientists that were having an international symposium. It was the Percis one. And so he said, so I had to go through an interrogation, and I was given instructions on where we don't fly near the U.S. border, because if you ever land over there and you got some of these people there, the FBI will be all over us. And don't fly here, don't fly there. But we took them up on our twin otters and flew them all over, and they were amazed. And I remember a guy from the Netherlands, he didn't know there's that much forest left in the North Temperate world. So yeah, it was something. So I had him here for 14 days, and the symposium lasted 10. And then I had 4 days where I just put them up in the Valhalla Inn, or not? No, the other one. Air lane, yeah, the air lane. And they just loved it, and they wined them and dined them, and they had food they never had before. One girl from Poland wanted to defect, but talked her out of it. Anyway, then afterwards you have a meeting, and they want to know what kind of phone calls were made, and did they call out of town and all of this. And so we had a debriefing, and that was that. But that was quite exciting.
That was Percis 1.
That was Percis 1.
And now they're heading for Percis
5. We had it in Prague this fall, so that's last September.
So this thing you created is an ongoing
Right.
Symposium, sharing of knowledge among scientists,
Right,
something
yeah.
you created here in Thunder Bay.
Right. Yeah.
What were your impressions of Thunder Bay when you got here?
Oh, I was impressed. I loved it. Yeah. Fell in love with it right away.
Oh, and that, yeah. And if you're a kid, you're just waiting for those other kids to show up. And so they did show up with their rocks, and yelled, "The Yankees go home."
Yeah.
I was less impressed than Dad was. So now that you've been here, it's 50 years, 52 years. What do you think of the move?
Well, I think smartest thing I ever did. Yeah, no regrets. Wonderful.
You've already talked about how you got to be, the things that it took to be 90, a lot of the medical stuff. We're going to get to a couple, I'm actually jumping ahead of myself. There's one thing I want to ask you about first. There's one thing I don't think a lot of people know about you, and that in 3 different occasions you saved people's lives. Can you tell it? The first one was when you were in the military. Can you tell us what happened there?
Oh, yeah. I was an artillery officer. And I was range safety officer, or I was an executive officer of the battery at the time. And we were supporting the basic training course. And 2 of my friends from Michigan State were on one of the cannons. And when you're shooting howitzers, if you have like 7 bags, and if you're going to shoot into the range, it may be a charge 4. So you had to see 3 powder bags hanging up. Well, here's these cannons, and there's my friends down there, and they're like, and I said, "Where's your powder bag?" Well, they said, "We threw them away. We don't have them." But I said, so I had a ceasefire, and we're supporting all these troops up in the firing range, and opened up the cannon, and they had all 7 powder bags in the damn chamber, and they could have gone over the range and killed people on the other side. So we pulled them out and cut them off, and finally went in fire effect with those charge 4. But no, that was just one incident. The other one was saving Larry Brooke and Bill Berlin's life when they tipped over in the boat, and I had to go out on the boat and rescue them.
So just what were they doing?
They were catching Cisco. We were bringing live Cisco back to the Ann Arbor lab. And so this boat was stuck in the ice there, and I grabbed the container top, and I paddled out to them and grabbed them and got them, dragged their waddies over the boat, and we went into the other side, and the sheriff department got there and dragged us out of there. And yeah, that was another one.
So, but you've told me the story before. They are out in the lake. They're falling off. They need help. You've got a rickety old boat,
Yeah,
and you've got the cover of a cooler lid,
yeah,
and you've got kids at home.
yeah.
And it's not safe for you to do it.
Well, somebody had to.
But, I mean, that wasn't an automatic. That was a decision you had to make.
Yeah.
Lake
Yeah.
Superior?
No,
this
it was an inland lake near Ann Arbor, Michigan.
So, what went through your head when you were making that decision?
Well, Larry Brooke just lost his brother, and I forgot how he died. And I was thinking I didn't want to have to tell his father that he's lost another son. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I said I can't do that. And so then I had George Washburn, he was with me. I said, you go to that farmhouse and call the sheriff's department and have them come out. And so by the time we got to the other shore, they finally showed up. But they had their boat all put away for the winter because it was in November. And it was cold as hell, and they were having hypothermia. Right.
And Larry Brooke became like an uncle to all of us.
Yeah.
Tell us about the third time.
Well, I guess the third time was when we were playing volleyball, and John Filipovic, my lawyer, and I were really good friends. And his left arm started going numb, and he was having pains. And I said, we got to go to the doctor. And so he said, I want to go home first. So we went home, and then Marg, his wife, said, well, we got to call Danny and Sharon. They were here. They're in Carol Elsie, that's their son and daughter-in-law. And so, yeah, I said, no, we got to go right down to the hospital right now. So let's go. So I took him down there, and he had a heart attack, and he just flatlined twice. And they saved his life, and he lived another several years, and we were good friends. We had good times together, but that was another one. And I remember Dave was thanking me for saving his life, on that one, calling that shot. But I think that's about it.
It's a disappointingly low number of lives you've saved. I think a lot of people look at their dads as heroes. I do, but not hollow words here. We talked a lot about experience. I want to talk about wisdom. You've been by any account, a successful person, successful at work. So I'm going to ask you a work question that maybe people can benefit from. What does it take to be a good leader?
Well, there's natural leaders, and then there's trained leader. And I think I learned a lot of leadership by being an artillery officer and going through the training with the Army. It was a wonderful experience. It really was. And they taught a lot about leadership. Now, I don't know if I was a natural leader or not, but I certainly learned a lot about leadership while in the military.
What are a few things that people can take away from that?
Well, first of all, don't be first in line. let the troops, eat. Plan. I used to call them the 5 P's. Learn the 5 P's: power planning, poor prayer planning, piss poor performance, things like that. I'm trying to think of other ones. But yeah, there's a lot of things about leadership and that you learn in the military and in the Army. So,
In addition to, a long leadership career at work, 65 years of marriage. What's the key to longevity and happiness in marriage?
I told you already, scotch. Scotch, colonoscopy. And, right.
You can have those and not be married
And
too.
aortic replacement bypass, aortic valve replacements.
But I've seen you together, especially in the last couple of years, and we don't need to go into details there. I mean, what makes a marriage work?
Love, mutual admiration, respect for each other. Yeah, Dorothy is wonderful, fantastic wife. Still is. Yeah, she was a real inspiration. We were a team.
Well, we decided when we got married that we would save my salary as a teacher, which was not like the salaries there. Anyway, so we saved my salary, built a house, ran a year, and sold it, and went to the University of
Minnesota. Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah, they helped pay for my PhD. Yeah.
So
With the, I had a National Institute of Health fellowship too. That helped.
So being smart with your money helps too.
Yeah, and then there were you, who almost cost me $515 because you almost were born before my general food insurance went out.
I can tell you, yeah, I was born the day before it ran out.
He was born the day, he just hang in there. And when I left General Foods after working on Tang, developing Tang, why they gave me a 5 years leave of absence with all the insurance benefits. And, they were really good to me and said, come back because I didn't know if I was going to get through my PhD program. I don't know if I could make it. So anyway, yeah, so in July, why Craig hasn't arrived yet. And so that he finally arrived, and then they paid $515 for his.
I can tell you, I'm happy to brag to all my colleagues in television that even before I was born, I could hit a deadline.
Yeah.
We're into parenthood now. You've raised 3 boys. All have had, between spectacularly and reasonably successful career. I'm on the reasonably end.
Well, you're doing well.
We're all involved in the community. We still love our parents. We still love each other. You've done really well as a father, the best. What's the key to being a good father?
Oh, God.
I've already used scotch and colonoscopies as an answer. You got to do something else.
Well, I think one of the things and why you guys were so successful is because I didn't project anything on you. I didn't say you had to be a scientist. You had to do that. I let you follow your own interests and encourage those interests that you had. And I knew that if you pursued what you like to do, you'd be more successful than if you were forced to do something you didn't want to do. So that's probably one thing that I think was really important. Is I gave you your own mind.
Would totally agree with that, and that's something that I noticed and have tried to carry on to my kids too.
Good.
And I would also add, at every one of our games, you were there. You and Mom were there, unless one of the other ones had a game. If somebody had a chance to make the playoffs and ours didn't, well, they were going to the one that could make the playoffs. They're supportive, but they're not stupid. So, all of that has rubbed off. We talked about this a lot now. I've asked the questions that I've had. Is there anything that you would like to leave people with? Any bit of wisdom or experience or insight that you would like to share with people?
No, not really. I can't think of anything. Just follow your interests, do what you like to do, and if you drink scotch, have one every night.
Does anybody have any questions?
Prefer single malt.
So drink good scotch.
Well, I drink good scotch with Rob Foster. He's my drinking brother.
Anybody have any questions for Pete?
Anybody have any stories they want to share about Pete?
I'm going to do questions so I can get off here because we won't hear the stories.
Okay.
So we won't. Does anybody have a question that you can share with Pete on the broadcast?
Well, Pete, I know walleye is your favorite fish, but do you have a favorite son?
No, I really don't.
Troublemaker.
No, I really don't. No.
Just try.
I'm proud of all three of them.
It's not you, Rob.
Oh.
Rob Foster, I call him my foster child. And we spent a lot of time together. And I worked with him in his consulting firm when he first started.
Make a lot of scotch.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun together. Yeah. So if you want to know anything about nature, Rob's the one to talk to.
Well,
Or bears.
And bears. Yeah, he knows how to avoid bears. He's been attacked 3 times by bears, and escaped all of them.
He knows how to survive them, not avoid them.
Yeah, he survived them, right?
I mean, we all want to be attractive, but there has to be some discrimination. Listen, thank everybody for their patience through this. It's a party we all want to mingle. I just want to thank you, Dad. Could never have a better dad.
Well, thank
Never
you.
have a better dad. And I was a weird kid. And I really appreciated you letting me be weird and figure it out.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's true.
And you
It
did.
sounds funny, but it's true. I was a weird kid, and he didn't try to push me in some direction. He let me be who I was and let me figure things out and was supportive of that. And that's, I think, look, every weird kid needs that. Every kid needs that. So it probably was easier with the other boys than it was with me. But I probably needed that patience more than other people did. So thank you. And online, thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this. Dad would like to leave you with single malt scotch and colonoscopies as the keys to longevity. But I would add that
And stints.
I would add that what we've heard in the subtext of this is patience and passion and love, and making sure that you take that love and spread that love in the world. And that's what I see with him, especially with my mom every day. So I'm ending this broadcast. Thanks for watching, everybody.